In order to validate your Amazon product idea, you should look not only at the sales numbers, competition, and search volume, but rather pay attention to your competitors' conversion rates for specific keywords to better understand the demand. In this video, you will learn how to do that by using different Amazon brand analytics data points and Amazon Search Query Performance Report to validate a product idea.
Hi, I'm really happy that you are joining me here today on OrangeClick channel. So before we go into the details of your today's presentation, could you first introduce yourself and also let us know what you do in the Amazon space?
Hi, Lisette. First of all, I'm very excited to be here again. My name is Daniel Fernandez. I run and own an Amazon marketing agency. It's called AMZ Clever. And what we do, the best way I like to explain it is we bring freedom back to entrepreneurs or marketing teams by managing Amazon and Walmart, the Amazon Walmart channels, and growing brands in these channels for our clients.
Okay, sounds really good. So yeah, usually we go straight to the point, straight to the presentation, so sellers can get as much value as possible by watching us. So go ahead, share your screen, and we're ready to hear what you have for us.
I'm going to be talking about conversion rates, specifically how to get your competitors' conversion rates for specific keywords. Now, Lisette, I've been in this industry since 2014, and these before, just 2 years ago, this was a dream, right? Like, can we actually get data from our competitors? And I know that some people, have heard, Amazon employees selling data under the table. Some people got in trouble for that, right? So we know that data exists, right? But today, what I'm going to learn is how to actually get it yourself in the way Amazon wants it, right? Amazon is giving us this data, but let me just jump in here. I like to always break things down. I'll share very briefly, or kind of did already talk about myself, but I'm going to share the problem, the solution, and then we can take some questions from your side that the audience might be thinking about. So just very quick, I won't bore anybody with this. Being in the industry for a while, I moved and lived in China for a few years, worked with some big Chinese sellers, Chinese brands, also Western sellers, Western brands. So I kind of know how both sides think and approach Amazon. Over here, I'm at the PPC Congress with your company a few years back. Being able to work with some big brands, generated a good chunk of revenue for our clients. So I want to, just to emphasize that what we're speaking here is from experience, and it's what we do for our clients, our brands. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the problem. And simply, to me, it always comes down to the same question, right? Is Amazon good for creating demand? So the answer is no, because the problem is, Amazon has, for creating demand, if there's no traffic for what you're selling, then nobody will ever find it, right? Nobody's searching for it, nobody's finding it. The actual purpose is finding where the demand is on Amazon, and then making sure that your product aligns, right? And if you can align with it and you can take your little share of that demand, then that's what we think Amazon is all about, right? That's what we think is the right approach. So that's what we call it here, a strong offer. But then the obvious question is, okay, how do I find demand, right? And we could talk about, the old ways, right? One is with the bestseller rank. Some people used to look at this, but the problem is by the time you see products here, it's too late, right? Those products are already at the top. Then the tools came around, right? Like this tool here, I'm sure many are familiar with. And the problem with this is also, when you look at the revenues of these products, it's already a little bit too late, right? Like they are already at the top. You're late to the party in what we call the product life cycle, right? At the beginning, when it's innovative, early adopters, late adopters, and then at the end, what we call the laggards, right? When you see products here doing really well, it's already consolidated at the top. Then we have, this is another tool that many are familiar with. And this was the era of the search volume, right? Like, okay, these terms have more search volume than others. The problem with this is everybody's using it as well. Second is These are estimates, right? And my favorite is search volumes don't mean purchases, right? There could be keywords that get searched a lot on Amazon, but people are not buying from those keywords. At the end of the day, we think that search volume is a demand indicator, but it's a weak demand indicator, right? We think that there is better demand indicators, and that is sales volume, right? Like how many sales are actually happening from these keywords. We think that's the strong demand indicator. Now, with that being said, we think that it's not the strongest demand indicator, right? We think that actual sales volume and conversion rate, right, for keywords is a stronger demand indicator, perhaps the strongest, right? So to summarize that, garlic press, right? The keyword garlic press, we can find out how many people are searching it, but how about we find out how many sales are happening from it? And how about we actually find out what the conversion rates for the top sellers for that keyword are, and the average conversion rate for that keyword, right? That would save all the time in the world, because you come up with your new product, and then if your conversion rate is below the average and it doesn't go up and it meets that, at least that average or closer to those top competitors, then it's better to not waste time and money, right? We know that that product may not really, go anywhere. So, it begs the question, right? Where are your competitors getting their sales, right? And to me, there's a second part to that question, which is which keywords these competitors are getting their sales, right? At the end of the day, when you're doing product research, this should be the main question, right? I find this competitor, I find this niche, maybe these products are not at the top yet, right? Where are they getting their sales, right? And if it's a product at the top, same thing. Where is this top competitor getting their sales? So, and most importantly, what is a conversion rate? The reason we emphasize conversion rate is because that way you can actually budget how much ad spend you need, right? Lisa, how many times you get the question of how much money do I need to start an Amazon business?
I would say it's probably one of the most asked questions when we do webinars, for example, about product launches and selecting products. And usually experts like to say it depends.
That's what every good marketer says, right? Or test it. You can answer every question with you gotta test it. But I'm not gonna give that answer today. Today I'm gonna give an answer of you can calculate it. You just need a conversion rate for where your competitors are getting their sales, right? And then you can basically estimate, if on average every click is gonna cost you $1, right? And if your competitors convert at 10%, right? That means every 10 clicks they get a sale, right? That means that if every 10 clicks they get a sale, and you will have the same conversion rates, and on average you pay $1 per click, right? That means you need to spend $10 per sale, right? And then if you see that your competitor is selling 100 units for this keyword, and you need to match that same level of sales for that keyword, right? That means you need to spend $1,000 to get there, right? Now that may be profitable, or maybe it won't be profitable, right? Or maybe your conversion rate will be lower than 10%. Maybe at the beginning will be 5%, right? But with this, you can actually plan for each week or for each month for the next 3 months or 6 months, 12 months, whatever you want to do, what your marketing budget should be. It becomes very, very scientific, right? So, at the end of the day, Amazon is sharing this data with us now, right? This was a dream just a year ago. This was a dream, right? But it's now happening. Why they're doing that, I don't know. I have speculations. I think they just want to take people away from Shopify, people away from off Amazon. And one of the best ways to do that is just give us more data, right? Allow us to be more efficient with our marketing. So with the problem out of the way, let's talk about the solution, because some people may be thinking, okay, Daniel, you're sharing purchases for keywords for competitors and their conversion rates, but how do we get that? So let me answer that. We're going to talk about using, number one, the brand analytics Amazon search terms section. And for short, I'm going to call it BAST. The BAST basically shows us the most searched search terms on Amazon, and Amazon ranks them, right? This is not BSR. This is a different ranking. This is, for example, at the time this data was recorded, Christmas decorations was the most search term on Amazon of all departments, all keywords, right? Christmas tree was next. So you can get an idea when this data here was captured, right? Usually iPhone is at the top, but in this case, Christmas took prevalence. So, and then they also give us, for each of these search terms, they give us the top 3 products in terms of click share, right? Who is getting the most clicks, right? Then they give us the conversion share, and people confuse this with conversion rate. It's not conversion rate, rather conversion share, right? So out of all the conversions that happen for Christmas decorations, what percentage of all those conversions went to this first ASIN, went to the second ASIN, went to this third ASIN, right? So that's the one. This is the one part we're going to use. Second part we're going to use is the brand analytics search query performance, and for short, I'm going to call it the BASQP, right? And the BASQP is basically Amazon. This is a gift from the Amazon god, right? A gift from Bezos himself, right? Because he's pretty much sharing with us the sales funnel on Amazon, right? The sales funnel starts with, it's wider at the top, right? And that's search volume, simply how many people are searching these search terms or these queries. Then it's telling us how many, this is not PPC, but organic impressions appear, right? And organic impressions is basically how many products appear each time somebody searches, right? And a page has 48 products. That's why the number of impressions per search is going to be times 48 plus, because there's other placements, there's other spots, right, where Amazon is showing products. Then it's going to it's showing us how many clicks happen from those impressions. The smart people in the audience now can see, if we have impressions, we have clicks, we can calculate click-throughs, right? Then they'll tell us how many add to carts, and lastly, how many purchases. Now, this is all provided in the SQP report, and it's all data from Amazon, right? The days of estimations or guessing what Amazon, the search volume that some providers do out there, those days are gone. We're getting 1P data right from the source, and it's available for most brands. So, search volume, as I mentioned it, organic impressions, and they're giving us the total organic impressions. They're giving us the ones for our brand, and then basically giving us the percentage, right? Same with clicks. They're giving us the total click count for a time period, right? We choose what time period we want to see. And then they're telling us what the click rates are, right? So from impression to click. Then they're telling us how many of those our brand is capturing, right? So here we see 472 clicks total. And then our brand captured 462 of those. So the brand share is ridiculous. And this is because that search term that we don't see was a branded term, right? Was the name of the brand in this particular example. Lastly, organic cart ads, like those clicks, out of those clicks, how many added to the cart and what percentage was captured by our brand, right? And lastly, the same, but for purchases. So moving along, so we have clicks. Amazon is giving us that for our, based on our brand. Amazon is telling us which keywords are relevant to our products, and they're giving us this data for each of those keywords, right, in the BASQP. So with that being said, if we combine both, to get sales volume and conversion rate, we need to combine both reports, right? The BASQP and the BAAST, and this is how that looks like on both sides. So this is best if you have two tabs open, and one for the BASQP, one for the BAAST, and then you basically want to select the same date range on each of those, right? Here at the top, we have the BASQP. So we're selecting Q3, right, of 2022. And then on the BAAST, we're doing the same, so quarterly, and also selecting that Q3. Only that the date range here is, or the way to select that is with a date range. Once we have that, we're going to look at, on the BASQP here, we're going to look at a specific keyword, right? The one that I have highlighted over here. Those keywords are going to appear, but the Amazon system is going to populate those keywords based on relevancy, right? For products for your brand. So the SQP is not a search engine, rather Amazon is populating it themselves. We'll talk about later what to do if they're not populating the keywords that you want, right? Or the search query, search terms that you want. On the BAST, that's over here on the right, and there you have a search box, right? And we're going to search the same term here, computer speakers. And it's going to bring it to us. It's going to give us the search frequency rank. Once again, that's not BSR. That's just, this is the 2,227th most searched search term on Amazon. So once we have that, we're going to go and grab for, let's say for the number one ASIN, we're going to grab whatever the conversion share for that product. And then we're going to put 2 and 2 together, right? On the BA SQP, the one here at the top, we have the total number of purchases for that search term, 26,113. On the bottom screenshot here, we have the conversion share of the number one product, right? So we put the two together, right? Out of all these purchases, we know the number one ASIN is capturing this many. So that is going to be about 3,013 purchases during that quarter, right? So now we know how many sales this ASIN is getting organically for that, the keyword, that search term. There is, a small, the data is not whole numbers, right? And that is because, Amazon is probably using some, other calculations, and there's decimals, but at the end of the day, it's a very, we want to round up the number. So once we have the total number of purchases, how do we get the conversion rate, right? And the way to do that is we repeat the same process we did a moment ago, but instead of calculating the total purchases, we're going to calculate the total clicks, right? Because remember, Amazon is giving us the total clicks for that keyword. They're also giving us the click share for that product, right? So we put the two together. We know that these products got 27,414 clicks during Q3, right? So now we put the two together again because we have total purchases, total clicks. So we divide those, and then that's how we figure out what their conversion rate for that keyword or organic is, which in this case is 11%. But now I'm going to repeat the same process with the number 2 ASIN and the number 3 ASIN, right? Because remember, Amazon is giving us this data on the BA AST, right? For the top 3 ASINs for each of these keywords. So the number 2 ASIN has 10.7% conversion rates, and then the number 3 is a big drop off, right? With 5.5% conversion rate. Again, I'm repeating the process, calculating the total number of purchases, organic, the total number of clicks, organic for each of these, and then putting them together to get that conversion rate. So you can also do that for your own product, right? I know that everybody can get their PPC conversion rate for search terms, but here you can do the same for organic, because Amazon is giving you in the BASQP, it's giving you the total number of clicks for your product and the total number of purchases for your product. So in this particular example, the conversion rate for this product is super low, right? And one of the reasons for that is this is a very expensive item that is competing with very cheap items in the category. And that's why, when we look at branded keywords for this product, it has good conversion rates. When we look at non-branded keywords for this product, the conversion rates are very low compared to, the products at the top, that are usually many times cheaper. So once we have that, there is still one more thing, right? I mentioned it earlier. How about the conversion rates for the keyword overall, right? Like for all products, not just our product, not just the top 3 competitors. The way we do that is we got the total number of clicks, we got the total number of purchases, like all products accounted for, and then we put the two together, and then we get the result here of 8%. So then we can compare, right? So it makes sense. The top two ASINs are above the average, right? The third is below average, and then we're far, far below the average. So with this data, we completely know and decided to not pursue ranking for these keywords, nor advertising for some of these keywords that have such a low conversion rate, right? We're just not we're not converting high enough for that. This is what I mentioned it before, is that the BA, because some people that are watching this are like, well, what if I have a new product idea, right, that is not on Amazon yet, right? You mentioned it, the BA SQP is Amazon populating that data, right? And if you don't have the product created, Amazon is not going to have anything to populate, right, based on relevancy. So I have a solution for that, which is you want to create what we call a dummy listing, right? And you need a UPC code for that, and that should be a burner UPC, a throwaway UPC code. But you want to create a new ASIN, and you want to make it just exactly as the product that you may want to sell one day, right? Like what that product idea that you have. You want to make that title, you want to make those bullets, you want to make that description as if it were the product that you're planning to sell. Or another idea is you can copy almost exactly an apples to apples competitor, right? Just change the brand name, just put another information there for the brand and model and all of that, right? But you want to create that dummy listing, and then you could try just creating it as FBM, and then maybe put one unit in stock, and then maybe just raise the price a lot so that nobody will buy it, right? And then run some PPC for it. Run a few dollars on PPC. Another idea is you can make it an FBA listing. You can buy one unit from your competitor, receive it, change the packaging so that it doesn't show the brand name, right? Make it a different product, different packaging, different brand, and then send that unit to FBA and then run a little bit of ads, right? So you start getting a little bit of traffic. Now, obviously do this at your own risk, right? Like if you explain this to somebody at Amazon, they'll tell you, well, don't do that, right? But sometimes this is a little risk that we need to take, right? To get the data that we need. Because by doing this, the Amazon system is going to start indexing this dummy listing. It's going to start giving you relevancy, right? Based on the keywords, based on the traffic that you're getting. And that's what's going to make the BA SQP populate. So then you'll have this data, because Amazon then is giving you the data for the entire keyword, right? All the products for that keyword, which is what you need. So that's just the last slide. I have something here with my face and my email, but I'll let you, I don't know, like talk about what you want to talk about now.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. So you said it's a little bit interesting that Amazon is now starting to give more and more data to Amazon sellers. But when talking about conversion rates, so before having those reports, what were the options for sellers to get any data about organic sales and the conversion rates? Were there any?
Yeah, before that, the way was, first of all, only for your own product. Right. And what you had to do is you had to calculate your total sales and then subtract your PPC sales. Right. And then you would get like, okay, more or less, I'm getting this many organic sales, but you couldn't do it per keyword. Right. It was just overall. Right. Because that's the only way you could calculate it, on the non-PPC side, but, overall side.
All right. So now, as you mentioned, now sellers are able to go more specific and be more efficient about everything because they just have that keyword level data available. So I wanted to ask if sellers now see that their conversion rates aren't as good as they are supposed to be or could be compared to the competition, then what are some of the first elements you usually recommend looking into and improving to improve the conversion rate as well?
Yeah, good question. So I would say probably the biggest surprise, right, is most products get most of their sales from a very few set of keywords, right? Like for many, many years, I think there's been this notion of the long tail keywords, right? And I think the surprise at the end of the day is when looking at this data, you find that most products get very little sales from long tail. Like even if you add up all the long tail keywords, it doesn't compare with the total sales you get from just a handful. Probably 10 or less, right? So that way you can really just pay attention, spend time, money, budget on the keywords that really matter, right? So that would be one thing. The other thing would be that even though it's a very small set of keywords, I would still try to avoid going for the top 3 keywords there, right? Or maybe even the top 5, and I would focus more on the bottom 5, right, of that set at the beginning. And the reason for that is because of cost per click, right? The cost per click on average for those top 50% is going to be a lot higher than that bottom 50%. But at the same time, I'm a big fan of if a brand is going to win, we want to get that validation as soon as possible, right? Big fan of the lean startup method. At the same time, if a brand fails, it's better to find out that it's not going to work very quickly than to just drag it on and on forever, right? So you launch your product, you know which keywords you must convert because you get that data from your competitor. So you may also want to just put a budget on all the keywords, and then if in 3 months your conversion rate is not at least near the average for all products, then that's a sign, right? Something is wrong. If it's better than that average, that's really good. Now, if it's almost comparable to the top 3 ASINs, or you're beating the 3rd ASIN, that's amazing. That to us is a home run situation, right? That to us is advertise more and more and more because you're going to be at the top, right? It's like we got the World Cup right now. I know there's some young players, right? And there's some that you can see like this guy is going to be a superstar, right? It's just a matter of time. So that's how we approach it.
All right, thank you very much for sharing your approach, and also the whole presentation was very useful for sure for all of the sellers watching us, because you broke down everything step by step, so everyone is going to it's easy to follow along and just do everything for their own product. So before we wrap up, I wanted to ask one more time, could you explain how do you work together with Amazon sellers? What services do you offer, and also what's the best way to learn more about your agency?
Definitely. So, we're very boutique. A lot of brands we have to, say no to. We look for something very, very specific, especially brands that we think have that potential to grow. But I'm open to speak with everybody that reaches out, have questions. Just sharing my email here on the screen. I think I try to get back to everybody. Even if it's just to connect, right? Just want to connect, become acquaintances. Always happy to meet, people that are doing something special. And then what we do is we do management and strategy for brands on Amazon. It's done for you. We run the show. We set goals of where we think we could be, in a quarter from now, a year from now, and then we work towards that. So if anybody has any questions about that, obviously very happy to connect via email. And other than that, my team and I, we breathe Amazon every day, right? Like it's the data set that we have and the amount of exposure we have is just very unparalleled. Trying to go to events and everything, so it's always a full-time job, right, to keep up with the changes.
Yeah, and especially now during the past years, I think things have gone really crazy in the Amazon world because the updates are just rolling out and out all the time. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of work for experts like you to be up to date. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you soon again on Orange Click YouTube channel.
Thanks, Lisette. Have a good one.
I hope this video will help you to validate your next best-selling product idea. Before you go, don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons, as well as leave the comment below if you have additional questions. And now I recommend you to watch other video with Daniel, where he tells how to use Amazon Product Opportunity Explorer and Brand Analytics for product research.